The rain fell in unforgiving sheets, turning the cracked sidewalks into rivers of dirty water that swallowed the glow of city lights. Midnight sirens screamed in the distance, swallowed by thunder rolling along the skyline. It was the kind of night where even the desperate hurried home, except for those who had no home to hurry to. Maya Patel gripped the handlebar of her old delivery bicycle, shivering beneath her thin windbreaker as icy rain soaked through every layer of clothing she owned. The bag strapped to her back smelled faintly of fries and damp cardboard. Another late shift, another delivery run that would barely buy groceries for the week. Her fingers were numb, but she pedaled harder, because slowing down meant thinking, and thinking meant feeling. About the bills, the eviction notice, the hospital debt from her mother's illness, the job she lost trying to care for her. She didn't have the luxury of breaking. The map on her phone flickered, battery dying. Of course. She squinted at the smeared screen. Penthouse tower. Rear entrance. Delivery code required. She sighed. Rich people and their secret doors. The alley was unusually silent, a stillness so unnatural it prickled down her spine. No traffic, no voices, not even rats scurrying through garbage. Just rain and the hollow echo of her footsteps as she pushed her bike deeper into the darkness. Her breath clouded in front of her. The cold seeped into her bones. Something metallic clattered. Maya froze. At first, she assumed it was a trash can lid knocked over by wind, but then she heard it again. A low, broken sound. A groan. She swallowed hard. Hello? Is someone there? Her voice sounded too thin, swallowed by shadows. For a moment, nothing. Then she saw it, a hand, pale and shaking, reaching weakly from behind a dumpster. A trail of dark, glistening crimson smeared across the wet concrete, rain diluting it into watery streams. Her heart kicked violently against her ribs. She stepped forward, slow, terrified. Sir, are you hurt? No response. She rounded the dumpster, and her breath caught. A man lay sprawled on the ground, his white dress shirt soaked through with blood, chest heaving unevenly. His face looked carved from marble, sharp jawline, high cheekbones, lashes long enough to cast shadows. His dark hair was matted with rain and blood, but even in that condition he looked powerful, commanding, like someone used to control. A gunshot wound, just below the ribs. Fresh, close range. Maya's hand shook. She had seen injuries before during her mother's hospital nights, but nothing like this. This was violence. This was death inches away. She knelt beside him despite every instinct screaming to run. Sir, can you hear me? I'm going to call an ambulance. His eyes snapped open. Cold black, piercing. Not the eyes of a dying man. Eyes that had seen too much. His hand shot up, gripping her wrist with startling strength. No hospitals, he rasped, voice raw. No police. The rain hammered harder, wind slicing through the alley. Maya's voice trembled. You're bleeding too much, please. Just let me call. His grip tightened, jaw clenching. They're coming. You have to go. They. Not help. Enemies. Fear crawled up her spine like ice. She looked around the alley. Empty. Too empty. Who's coming? She whispered. He coughed, blood staining his lips. His body trembled. His other hand struggled inside his jacket, pulling out something small and metallic, a locket silver, engraved with tiny cherry blossoms. He forced it into her palm, curling her fingers around it with a desperate strength. Protect my twins. His voice broke, barely a whisper. Please protect them. Don't let them find them. Twins. Maya blinked rain from her lashes. I don't understand what twins. He swallowed hard, eyes glazing with pain. For a moment, the mask of power dropped, revealing something raw. Fear, helplessness, grief. His next words were barely audible. They killed her. They'll come for them next. You must keep them safe. Her heart twisted. Whoever he had been, criminal or victim, he was a father terrified for his children. Maya shook her head, voice cracking. I'm just a delivery girl. I can't. Behind her, a sound cut through the rain. Footsteps. Slow. Deliberate. Her blood went cold. The man's eyes sharpened instantly, predator returning beneath the pain. He forced himself upright, gripping her sleeve. "Run. Now. I can't just leave you." "Run," he hissed, voice fierce enough to shake her. "Or we all die." The footsteps grew louder, multiple boots splashing through water. Shadows stretched along the alley wall. Maya's breath hitched, panic clawing at her chest. She looked at the man again, his body trembling, blood pooling beneath him, yet his gaze held an unyielding command. "Go," he whispered, strength fading. For them. Her legs moved before her mind did, instinct screaming. She grabbed her bike, stumbling toward the far end of the alley as the shadows thickened behind her. But before she turned fully away, she looked back once more. He stared at her through rain and darkness, those black eyes holding something she didn't understand. A promise, a plea, a destiny she had never asked for. A gun cocked behind her. Maya gasped and ducked behind a dumpster as the first shot exploded through the night, bright muzzle flash illuminating the alley, like lightning. The man on the ground struggled upright, bracing himself against the wall. "Come on then," he growled, voice low and lethal. The shadows surged forward. Maya covered her mouth, heart slamming against her ribs. She didn't know his name. She didn't know why they wanted him dead. But she knew one thing with terrifying clarity. She couldn't walk away. Not from a man willing to die for his children. Not from a promise whispered in blood. Behind her, the locket in her fist felt burning hot against her skin. And she had no idea that the man bleeding in the alley was Ji-hoon Kang, the most feared Korean Mafia boss in the country. A man whose enemies would burn cities to ashes just to find what she now carried. And they would come for her next. And nobody, not even Maya herself, was ready for what would happen next. Rain pounded the metal dumpster above Maya's head, masking the tremor of her breathing. She pressed herself into the cold concrete, her arms wrapped around her head as gunshots ricocheted through the alley. The flashes of light burst across the darkness like violent fireworks, each one accompanied by a roar that shook through her bones. She had never heard bullets this close. She had never felt death breathing down her neck. And yet somehow, she couldn't force herself to run. Every instinct screamed at her to flee, to abandon the bleeding stranger whose life was pouring onto the pavement. But something stronger held her frozen. Those words, "Protect my twins." Children. Innocent children. The gunfire stopped abruptly. A heavy silence followed, the kind that came before something worse. Maya dared to lift her head an inch, peering around the rusted metal. 3 figures emerged from the rain. Tall men in black coats, faces partially hidden beneath dripping hoods. Their steps were slow, confident, predatory. The man on the ground, Ji-hoon, though she didn't yet know his name, forced himself upright, bracing against the wall, blood pouring from his wound. The tallest of the attackers stepped closer, voice smooth and almost amused. "You're harder to kill than your reputation suggests, Kang." Kang. The name crackled in the air like electricity. So he was somebody. Somebody important. Somebody dangerous. Ji-hoon spat blood onto the concrete, eyes dark with fury. "If you touch them," he growled, voice sharp as broken glass, "I'll make sure your death is slow." The man chuckled. "You won't live long enough to make threats." Something shifted. Ji-hoon's arm tensed. He pulled something from behind his back. A gun, small but steady in his hand. He fired before the man expected it. A single brutal shot that struck the nearest attacker in the leg. The man collapsed with a scream, clutching at the gushing wound. Chaos erupted. The other 2 surged forward, drawing weapons. Maya's heart lurched. She couldn't stay. She had to do something. Her bike was too far now, out in the open, near the gunman. Her hands trembled as she reached instinctively for anything she could use as a weapon, but the alley offered nothing but trash bags and broken glass. She swallowed hard. "Please, God, help me do something right." Another shot fired, sparks exploding from the brick wall near Ji-hoon's head. He gasped, stumbling, strength fading. Their eyes met through rain and darkness. A silent question. A silent plea. Maya's breath caught. Before she could think, before she could talk herself out of it, she sprinted. She grabbed the fallen attacker's dropped gun. her fingers slipping on blood and rain, just as one of the remaining men raised his weapon at Ji-hoon's chest. Without thinking, she shouted, voice cracking with terror, "Stop!" The gunman spun toward her. She fired. The recoil slammed through her arm, sending her stumbling backward. The bullet shattered a lamppost instead, sparks bursting like lightning. The man ducked, swearing. "Shoot her," he barked. Ji-hoon moved faster than pain should allow, tackling the man's legs, sending both crashing to the ground. The gun skittered across the pavement, stopping near Maya's foot. "Run!" Ji-hoon roared. "I'm not leaving you," she cried back. For a split second, shock flickered across his face, as if he had never heard those words spoken to him before. The remaining attacker lunged forward, grabbing Maya's arm and wrenching her sideways. She screamed, struggling, the world spinning. The man's grip was iron tight, his voice a hiss in her ear. "Where are they? Where are the twins?" "I don't know what you're talking about," she gasped, panicked tears blurring her vision. The man roared with rage and lifted his gun point-blank to her forehead, and then Ji-hoon's arm wrapped around the man's throat from behind, dragging him backward with brutal, choking strength. They fought viciously, slipping in blood and rain until the attacker crashed against the wall, sliding to the ground unconscious. Silence returned, broken only by rain and Maya's ragged breathing. Ji-hoon collapsed forward, catching himself weakly against the dumpster. He swayed, legs barely holding him. Maya dropped the gun and rushed to him. "You're losing too much blood. You need a hospital." "No hospitals," he choked, gripping her coat. "They own half the city. If I'm admitted, they'll find me, and the twins will be next." "Then we need to move," Maya insisted. "You'll die if we stay here." He closed his eyes, chest heaving, rain streaming down his face. For a moment she thought he might collapse unconscious, but instead he forced himself upright, fingers digging into the dumpster edge to anchor himself. "There's a car," he muttered. 3 blocks east. Black SUV. Key card inside my pocket." Maya reached for his jacket cautiously, trying not to hurt him, retrieving a slim leather card. Her fingers brushed his chest accidentally, and she felt him stiffen, a tremor passing through him. Not from pain, but something like surprise. Human contact. Rare. Unfamiliar. "Lean on me," she said. His eyes opened, searching hers, as if trying to understand her. "Why did you come back?" "I couldn't just leave you to die." "No one risks their life for a stranger," he whispered, voice rough. "I'm not like most people," she replied softly, surprising herself. Something flickered in his gaze, something raw and almost reverent, before his expression hardened again, determination replacing vulnerability. Together they stumbled toward the alley exit, each step agony for him. Maya wrapped her arm around his waist, bearing his weight though her body shook with effort. His blood soaked her sleeve, warm and terrifying. Behind them, sirens wailed in the distance, not police sirens, but unmarked, lower-pitched, ominous. "They're coming," he rasped. "Faster." They reached the street, just as headlights swung wide around the corner. 2 black cars skidding to a stop, tires screaming. More men stepped out, armed, coordinated, lethal. Maya's stomach dropped. "We won't outrun them." "Give me the gun," Ji-hoon said, voice steadying with lethal intent. She handed it to him without hesitation. His hand shook violently, but he lifted it with chilling precision, firing 3 rapid shots into the air, shattering streetlights, plunging the block into complete darkness. "Run," he said again. But this time she didn't run alone. She dragged him with her, half carrying him down the soaked sidewalk, her muscles burning under his weight. The darkness swallowed them, but behind them, footsteps thundered like war drums. "You're bleeding too much," Maya whispered, voice cracking. "Please hold on." Ji-hoon gritted his teeth, sweat and rain mixing on his skin. "Tell me your name." "Now." "Why now?" "Maya." He exhaled hard, like the name grounded him. "If I don't make it." "No," she snapped, fierce and sudden. "Don't talk like that. I'm getting you out of here." His breath hitched, surprised again. They reached the intersection. Across the street, under a flickering sign, a sleek black SUV waited, just like he said. But between them and safety, headlights blazed behind them, engines revving. Maya's chest tightened. They wouldn't make it in time. And then, as if summoned by destiny, a motorcycle roared into the street, skidding in front of them with perfect precision. The rider wore a black helmet and leather jacket, face invisible. They stopped inches from Maya, lifted the visor, and an intense pair of eyes met hers. The rider spoke over the rain. "Get him on. Now. Who are you?" Maya demanded. Ji-hoon's body slumped, consciousness slipping. "Han-suk," he whispered. "He's mine." The rider glanced at Maya, tone sharp. "He's dying. Move." Maya hesitated only a second before helping hoist Ji-hoon onto the motorcycle, climbing behind him, holding him upright as the rider slammed the visor shut and accelerated, tires screaming across wet asphalt. Gunfire sparked behind them. Maya clutched Ji-hoon tightly, his head resting against her shoulder, breath shallow and uneven. The wind tore at her clothes, rain slicing across her cheeks like needles. Fear roared through her, but beneath it, something else stirred. A terrifying, inexplicable certainty. Her life would never be the same after tonight. They sped across the bridge out of the city, skyline vanishing behind mist and smoke. Ji-hoon's voice trembled beside her ear, barely audible. "Maya." "Yes, I'm here. Just hold on," she whispered fiercely. His hand found hers weakly, gripping with the last of his strength. "If anything happens, find them. Twins. A boy and a girl. You'll tell me yourself," she breathed, tears blurring the road. "You're going to tell me everything." But he didn't respond. His hand slipped from hers, falling limp. "Ji-hoon," she whispered, voice breaking. No answer. The motorcycle surged forward into darkness, sirens howling behind them, danger closing in from every direction. But Maya didn't look back. Her arms tightened around him, heartbeat shaking through her. She wasn't letting him die. Not tonight. Not after the promise she made. And she had no idea that the rider racing them towards safety was Han-suk Moon, Ji-hoon's second in command, and that by saving Ji-hoon calm, Maya had just stepped into the deadliest war between Mafia clans the city had ever seen, and they would all kill to know her name. The city blurred into streaks of rain and neon as the motorcycle raced across the bridge, engine roaring higher and higher, slicing through the darkness like a bullet. Maya held Ji-hoon tightly, feeling the shaky rise and fall of his breath against her chest, each one weaker than the last. His blood soaked through her shirt, thick and warm, spreading like fire. She pressed her hand harder against the wound, trying to stop the flow, but it was like trying to stop the ocean with her palms. "Stay with me," she whispered, voice trembling. "Don't you dare give up. I'm not losing you." The rider shouted over the thunderous wind. "We're almost there." Almost where? Maya didn't know if she could trust him. For all she knew, he could be another enemy. But she had no control now. Not over the motorcycle, not over the future, not over the storm every second was becoming. All she knew was that Ji-hoon was fading. The motorcycle skidded sharply off the main road and disappeared down an industrial ramp beneath the highway, plunging into darkness. A steel door loomed ahead, unmarked and rusting, blending into the concrete wall as though it didn't exist. The rider lifted his hand, and a green, scanning light sliced across his jacket sleeve. The door jerked upward with a grinding metallic wail. Inside was pitch black. "Hold on," the rider growled. They shot through the doorway, just as it slammed shut behind them, sealing out the world. The motorcycle screeched to a stop, and Maya almost toppled forward with the momentum. The rider jumped off, yanking off his helmet. Han-suk. Rain-soaked hair fell across his forehead, sharp features, eyes like tempered steel, breathing hard. He looked younger than she expected, maybe early 30s, but there was something older in his gaze, something hardened by violence. "Help me get him down," he ordered. Together, they lifted Ji-hoon off the bike. His body sagged heavily between them. Maya slid her arm under his shoulder, feeling the coldness beginning to settle into his skin. "Get the med team." Han-suk barked toward the darkness. Lights flickered on one by one, harsh industrial fluorescence that revealed a sprawling underground garage, walls lined with weapons lockers and heavy equipment. Several men and women in tactical black uniforms rushed forward, guiding them toward a steel medical table already being prepared. Maya's heart pounded. These people moved like soldiers trained for war, not police, not doctors. Something far more dangerous. Clear the table. Han Suk snapped. Now. They laid Ji-hoon down. His skin looked impossibly pale against the metal surface. His eyelids fluttered, breath thin and broken. Maya, he whispered. I'm here, she said, leaning close. I'm not leaving. For a moment, his hand curled weakly around hers again, like he needed the confirmation, like he feared she'd disappear. Han Suk turned to her sharply. You, move back. I'm not letting go, Maya said, voice tight. You need to move, he insisted, his tone colder than the rain. If he stops breathing, we need space. Now step back. She hesitated, then forced herself away, her fingers slipping reluctantly from Ji-hoon's. She watched as two medics tore open Ji-hoon's blood-soaked shirt, revealing his clean, muscular torso marred by a gunshot wound that had torn deep. Pulse weak and falling, one medic said. We're losing him. Get the compression unit, another shouted. Maya pressed her hands to her mouth, trembling so hard her knees nearly buckled. She felt sick watching strangers work frantically over him, pumping his chest, injecting adrenaline, sealing the wound with a pressure seal. Every second felt like a year. The beeping monitor beside him shrieked warnings. Han Suk stepped closer to her, his voice low and clipped. Where did you find him? In the alley behind Penthouse Tower, she stammered. I was delivering food. He was already bleeding. He said people were coming. He told me not to call police. Han Suk's eyes hardened. He's right. The police would have handed him over. Why? Maya demanded. Who are these people? Why are they trying to kill him? Han Suk didn't answer. His jaw tightened and he looked away. The monitor emitted a flat, piercing tone. No pulse, a medic yelled. Charging clear. Ji-hoon's body jolted violently on the table. Maya's hands flew to her chest. Tears blurred everything. Again. Clear. Another violent jolt. Nothing. Don't you dare. Maya whispered through tears. Don't you dare die. You promised. Han Suk's face cracked for the first time, agony flickering across his features. Come on, Hyung, he whispered under his breath. Not like this. The medic pressed harder. Charging again, 200. Clear. The shock slammed through Ji-hoon's chest. For a heartbeat, nothing. Then beep. Once. Twice. The monitor's tone shifted, weak, erratic, but present. He's back. The medic breathed. We've got a pulse. Maya sagged in relief, gripping the metal railing so she wouldn't collapse. Han Suk exhaled shakily and scrubbed a hand over his face. When he looked at Maya, his voice was different, not cold, but exhausted. You saved him. No, she whispered. He saved me. The medics worked methodically, stitching, wrapping, stabilizing. Minutes stretched into an hour. Finally they stepped away. He'll live, the lead medic said. But he needs rest. He lost too much blood. Maya let out a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. Han Suk nodded. Thank you. All of you. The medics left, wheels squeaking softly against the concrete. Silence settled over the room. Maya stepped closer to Ji-hoon's side. His breathing was steady now, eyes closed peacefully, without the tension of battle. He looked different. Young, beautiful, almost gentle. A man, not a legend. Who is he? She whispered. Han Suk leaned against the wall, crossing his arms. He hesitated, wrestling with something internally, before answering. You don't know who you saved. Maya shook her head. No, I couldn't leave him. Han Suk studied her face, as if trying to read her intentions. Ji-hoon Kang is the head of the Black Phoenix Syndicate. He controls half of the underground network in the West Coast region. In the criminal world, he's respected, feared, untouchable. Maya's breath froze. He's Mafia? Yes. Han Suk's gaze sharpened. And tonight, someone tried to end him. Her stomach turned. Everything inside her shifted. You're telling me I saved a Mafia boss? Yes. Maya took a step back, pulse racing. She felt the ground tilt beneath her feet. She thought of the hospital bills, of her mother's trembling hands, of her entire life struggling to survive cleanly in a dirty world. And now she was standing inside a fortress belonging to the kind of people she spent her life avoiding. She swallowed hard. The twins he mentioned, are they safe? Hansuk hesitated. Not anymore. His enemies know they exist. Once they realize he survived, they'll come for them. Maya's fingers tightened around the locket, still clutched in her fist. She opened her hand slowly, revealing the silver metal engraved with tiny cherry blossoms. Hansuk's eyes widened. He stepped forward urgently. Where did you get that? He gave it to me. Hansuk's voice shook, shock raw on his face. That locket is the only access key to the safe house where the twins are hidden. Without it, no one, not even our own people, can get in. Maya stared at the locket, realization slamming into her with brutal force. Ji-hoon hadn't chosen randomly. He had entrusted his children to her. Why me? She whispered. Hansuk shook his head. I don't know. But if he gave you that, it means he saw something in you he trusts. Maya almost laughed, a broken sound. I'm a delivery girl who can't pay rent. Hansuk's voice softened unexpectedly. Maybe that's why. The room fell quiet. Maya looked at Ji-hoon again. His chest rose and fell gently, his lashes casting faint shadows across his cheeks. He looked nothing like a monster. He looked like a man who had lost everything. After a long moment, Hansuk spoke again. You should leave. Get far from here. Take your bike. Disappear. If the enemy learns your face, they won't stop until you're dead. I'm not leaving, Maya said before she could talk herself out of it. Hansuk stared at her. You don't understand. This is a war. These men don't threaten, they destroy. I've watched my mother die slowly for years because we couldn't afford treatment, she said quietly. I've had everything taken from me already. I'm not afraid of them, and I'm not abandoning children in danger. Hansuk looked stunned, caught completely off guard. No one talked back to the Black Phoenix Syndicate. No one defied them. No one chose danger rather than safety. But Maya wasn't choosing danger. She was choosing humanity. You're either the bravest or the most foolish person I've ever met, Hansuk murmured. Maybe both, she replied. He rubbed the back of his neck, thinking. The safe house location is hidden behind biometric protection. Only Ji-hoon's DNA, my access code, or that locket can unlock it. The twins are there with one guardian. If you go, you'll be risking your life. All the more reason to go, she said. Hansuk blinked slowly, processing, recalibrating. If you're serious, we move at dawn. Enemy activity slows before sunrise, and we need to transfer to Hoon, to the secondary base first. Maya lifted her chin. I'm serious. A beat of silence passed. And thank you, Hansuk said softly, for not letting him die out there. I didn't do it for him, she said. I did it for the children. Hansuk's gaze softened further, respect shining through. You should rest. I'll arrange a room for you. He walked away to speak to the guards, leaving Maya alone with Ji-hoon's still form. She sank into the chair beside him, exhaustion hitting her all at once. Her body trembled uncontrollably now that adrenaline faded. She pressed the locket to her chest, feeling its cold metal against her heartbeat. You can't leave them, she whispered to him. You can't leave me holding a promise I can't keep. His fingers twitched slightly, as if he heard her. She reached out, taking his hand gently, intertwining their fingers. I don't know why you trusted me, she breathed, but I'll protect them. I swear it. One tear slid down her cheek and fell onto his knuckles, and for the first time since childhood, Maya prayed. Not for herself, for the twins of a man she should have been terrified of, but instead felt inexplicably drawn to. A whisper echoed from Ji-hoon's lips, so faint she almost thought she imagined it. Don't leave. Maya froze, breath catching. I won't, she whispered. Outside, somewhere far above the underground bunker, thunder rolled across the city, and the war for the twins of Ji-hoon Kang began. And everything would get worse before it got better, because someone else already knew Maya's name, and they were coming. A low hum vibrated through the underground bunker, the soft mechanical thrum of ventilation echoing against the concrete walls. Hours had passed since the surgery. It was nearing dawn, the time Hansa planned for their move. Maya remained beside Ji-hoon the entire night, her hand in his, her head resting against the edge of the bed. Exhaustion wrapped around her like chains, but she refused to sleep. She watched the slow rise and fall of his chest, counting each breath as proof that he still lived. He's alive. He's fighting. She closed her eyes just for a moment, just to blink back burning fatigue, and the world slipped into darkness. A faint sound jolted her awake. A footstep. Then another. She lifted her head slowly, muscles stiff. The bunker was darker than before, lights dimmed to emergency mode. Something was wrong. A voice whispered from the shadows, soft and venomous. Move away from him. Maya's breath stilled in her lungs. She turned slowly. A man stood at the entrance of the infirmary, face half hidden by the hood of a rain-soaked jacket, but the glint of steel in his hand was unmistakable. A suppressor-fitted gun. Her blood ran cold. "How did you get in?" she whispered. The man smirked. "Money opens doors, especially when the guard you bribed thinks he'll never live long enough to spend it." Maya's pulse thundered. She glanced toward the emergency call button on the wall. Too far. If she moved, he'd shoot before she reached it. The man stepped closer, gun aimed steadily. "You caused quite the chaos tonight, delivery girl. Saving the most dangerous man in the country. That was brave." He tilted his head. "And very stupid. What do you want?" Maya asked, voice trembling. "Ji-hoon Kang," the man said simply. "Dead. This time properly dead." Her breath caught. "Why? What did he do to you?" "It isn't personal. It's business. His empire is collapsing and ours rises. Tonight should have been the final nail, until you interfered." The man raised a silenced barrel. "So now we correct the mistake." Maya's heart pounded violently. She stepped in front of Ji-hoon's unconscious body, blocking him with her own. "You'll have to shoot me first." The man chuckled. "I was planning to." Her knees trembled, terror clawing up her spine, but she didn't move. She felt Ji-hoon's cold fingers against her back, and her resolve hardened like steel. "You're shaking," the man said. "Move aside." "No." His expression darkened. "He isn't worth dying for. You don't even know him." Maya swallowed hard. "But I know his children deserve a chance to live, and I promised him I would protect them. I'm not breaking that promise." The man sneered. "Idealists die fastest." His finger tightened on the trigger. Maya closed her eyes, not in surrender, but in defiance. A whisper brushed her ear. "Maya." Her eyes flew open. Ji-hoon's voice, weak but sharp, cut through the room like a blade. His hand seized her wrist and pulled her slightly backward, putting himself between her and the gun. His eyes opened black, burning, alive with lethal fury. "Don't touch her," Ji-hoon growled. The attacker startled. "You should be unconscious." Sedated. Ji-hoon pushed himself upright with a strength that seemed impossible in his condition. His body trembled with pain, but his gaze never wavered. "You made one mistake," Ji-hoon said, voice low and deadly. "You threatened what's mine." His muscles tightened, and in a single explosive movement, he surged off the table, slamming into the attacker. The gun clattered across the floor. The two men crashed against the cabinet, struggling fiercely. Blood spread across Ji-hoon's bandage, tearing open the barely closed wound, but he didn't stop. Rage and desperation fueled him. The attacker snarled and pulled a knife from his boot, driving it toward Ji-hoon's ribs. "No!" Maya shouted. She lunged forward, grabbing the first object she could, a metal tray from the medical cart, and slammed it against the attacker's arm. The knife clattered to the floor. Ji-hoon seized the moment, grabbing the man by the throat and pinning him against the wall, arm pressed brutally across his windpipe. "Who sent you?" he demanded, voice ice cold. The man gasped, choking. "You already know." Ji-hoon's eyes darkened. voice dropping to a deadly whisper. Tell me. The man's lips curled into a blood-streaked smile. You can't protect them. We already. Before he finished the sentence, a deafening gunshot blasted through the room, and the man went limp, collapsing to the floor. Han-suk stood at the doorway, gun smoking, chest heaving. Secondary breach at the west entrance. Han-suk said urgently. We have less than 2 minutes before more arrive. We need to lock down and evacuate. Now. Ji-hoon staggered, gripping the edge of the bed to keep from collapsing. Maya rushed to him, sliding her arm around him, supporting his weight. You shouldn't be standing, she said, voice breaking. I'm not letting anyone touch you, he rasped. Their eyes locked close, intense, raw. Storms collided in silence between them. Han-suk rushed forward. We need to move. Maya, take the locket. You're going with me to the safe house. I'm going too, Ji-hoon said. Han-suk stared at him. You'll bleed out before we reach the elevator. I don't care, Ji-hoon growled. Maya tightened her grip on him. You trust me with your children. Trust me with this. Please. His jaw clenched, conflict tearing through him. He looked down at her, searching her face, fighting the instinct to shield her from everything. Finally, slowly, he nodded. Protect them. Don't look back. I promise. Han-suk grabbed Maya's arm, guiding her toward the exit. But then Ji-hoon's voice stopped her, rough and breaking. Maya. She turned. His expression shattered every wall she thought he had. Come back, he whispered. The words cut straight through her chest. I will, she said softly. I swear. Han-suk pulled her away as armed guards rushed past, gunfire echoing from deeper inside the bunker. They ran through the corridor, lights flashing red. Behind her, Maya heard another explosion, walls shaking violently, and her heart twisted painfully. Stay alive. Please stay alive. They reached the elevator. Han-suk pressed a hidden panel, and the door slid open, revealing a narrow lift designed more for armor than humans. As the door started to close, Maya caught a final glimpse of Ji-hoon, stumbling toward reinforcements. Gun raised, blood trailing behind him, but eyes locked fiercely in her direction. The elevator descended into darkness. When it opened again, they emerged into a silent underground hangar. A black armored vehicle waited. Engine rumbling. Han-suk yanked the door open. Get in. Maya hesitated, chest tightening. Han-suk, the twins. Are they okay? They will be, he said, if you don't lose that locket. She stepped inside. The door slammed shut. The vehicle launched forward, roaring into a tunnel lit only by harsh overhead strobes. For a long stretch of silence, Maya stared down at the locket, feeling its weight like destiny in her palm. Han-suk spoke quietly, surprising her. You changed him tonight. She looked up. How? He's never asked anyone to come back, Han-suk said. He's never needed anyone, and he's never looked at someone the way he looked at you. Warmth bloomed painfully in her chest. He barely knows me. You saved him, Han-suk replied. Sometimes that's more than love. The vehicle surged upward, emerging into pale morning light. Maya shielded her eyes. After the darkness, the sunrise felt blinding. Ahead, a remote safe house came into view, high on a cliff overlooking the ocean, surrounded by security fences and armed guards. It's time, Han-suk said. The vehicle slowed, gate opening. Maya stepped out, heart pounding. The door of the house opened slowly. A woman in her 40s stood in the doorway, tear-streaked, relieved, eyes red with sleepless worry. And behind her, 2 children peeked out. A little boy and girl, no older than 4. The boy clutched a stuffed rabbit. The girl held a blanket to her lips. Maya's breath caught in her throat. The woman whispered, voice breaking. Are you? Maya. Maya nodded. The twins stepped forward slowly. The girl looked up at her with wide, trembling eyes. Are you the angel Daddy sent? Maya felt tears flood her eyes, hot, unstoppable. No, she whispered, kneeling down to their height. I'm just someone who made a promise. The little boy reached out and placed his hand in hers, and Maya's heart shattered open. The wind carried the sound of distant sirens. The war wasn't over, But something new had begun, and miles away, bleeding and fighting and refusing to fall, Ji-hoon Kong whispered her name like a vow. Maya, come back to me. The ocean wind was sharp and salty against Maya's skin, carrying the cry of distant gulls across the cliffs. Dawn spread gold light across the waves, breaking the night into fragments of warmth and color. For the first time since the chaos began, the world felt momentarily still. Inside the safe house, the twins curled against her on the couch beneath a soft blanket, exhausted from tears and fear. Hannah, the little girl, slept with her tiny hand clutching Maya's sleeve even in dreams, as if letting go might make her disappear. Minjun, her brother, snored softly against Maya's shoulder, his stuffed rabbit pressed tightly under his chin. Maya ran her fingers gently through their hair, heart aching with a tenderness she didn't know she could feel. Protecting them already felt instinctive, like breathing. The guardian woman, Mrs. Lee, hovered near the window, watching the horizon anxiously. They haven't checked in yet, she murmured, voice tight with worry. Usually Han-suk gives updates every hour. He will, Maya said softly, though fear twisted in her stomach. She stared out at the ocean, whispering silently to the wind. Please, let him live. She had known Ji-hoon only hours, and yet he was carved into her mind like stone. The sound of his voice telling her to come back. The way he looked at her when he thought he might die. The strength with which he fought, not for himself, but for his children. No one had ever fought for her. Not like that. Her phone vibrated. For a moment, her pulse stopped. The screen displayed a single message from an unknown encrypted number. He's alive. Relief punched the air from her lungs. Tears blurred her vision. She pressed the phone to her chest and exhaled shakily, shoulders trembling with release. Mrs. Lee turned, eyes wide. Is it? Yes, Maya whispered. He survived. The woman sagged against the wall, covering her mouth with both hands as tears streamed down her cheeks. Behind Maya, Hannah stirred, blinking sleepily. Is Daddy coming home? She asked, voice small and hopeful. Maya swallowed around the tightness in her throat. Not yet, sweetheart. But he's fighting too. Hannah nodded solemnly, trusting completely. Maya brushed a thumb gently against her soft cheek. A sudden knock broke the quiet. Instant tension snapped through the room. Guards moved instantly, weapons drawn, positioning around the door. Mrs. Lee pulled the children closer, instinctively. Han-suk's voice sounded from the other side. It's me. The guards opened the door, and Han-suk stepped into the room, bruised, exhausted, dried blood staining his shirt, but standing. Maya rose slowly, heart pounding. Ji-hoon. Han-suk met her eyes. For a moment, he said nothing, just looked at her with something heavy and meaningful. He made it, Han-suk said. We moved him to a secure location. He's stable, and he asked me to give you this. He reached into his coat and removed a small folded piece of paper, worn and damp from rain and blood. Maya's hands trembled as she opened it. The handwriting was strong despite the uneven lines, like it was written through pain. Thank you for protecting what I love most. I will come for them. And for you, Ji-hoon. Maya pressed a hand against her mouth, breath catching. The room blurred with tears, relief, fear, something deeper she couldn't name. Han-suk spoke quietly. He wanted you to know that your promise saved his life. It gave him something to fight for. Maya stared out the window at the sun cresting the horizon. She felt the weight of everything she had lost, and everything she had found. Tell him, she whispered, voice shaking. Tell him I'll keep the twins safe, and I'll be here. Han-suk nodded slowly, respect shining in his eyes. He already knows. A soft voice tugged at her sleeve. Hannah looked up, tiny eyes filled with innocent hope. Will you stay with us? She asked. Maya knelt and gathered both children into her arms, hugging them tightly. As long as you need me. Minjun pressed a small hand to her cheek. Daddy said angels come when you're scared. Maya smiled through tears. I'm not an angel. Maybe not, Han-suk said quietly from behind her. But you're the reason the devil is still alive to protect his children. She rose slowly, looking out at the ocean again. The future was uncertain, dangerous, unpredictable, steeped in blood. But for the first time in her life, she wasn't running. She had something to fight for, and someone fighting his way back to her. The wind carried the scent of salt and storm, and in the silence that followed, Maya whispered a vow to the rising sun. "I'll be waiting, Ji-hoon." Far away, in a hidden medical bunker, Ji-hoon Kong opened his eyes for the first time since the surgery. Pain tore through his chest like fire, but his expression softened, just slightly, when he saw the silver locket still warm in his palm. "Maya," he breathed, voice rough but alive. He closed his fist around it, eyes sharpening with ferocious resolve. "I'm coming back. And nothing, not blood, not bullets, not death itself, would keep him from returning to the woman who saved him with nothing but courage." The war had only begun. So had something far more powerful. Something worth living for. Thank you for listening to a poor delivery girl found him bleeding on the floor, whispering, "Protect my twins." She didn't know he was the Korean Mafia boss. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Your support means the world. Until next time, Red Heart.